Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Connors. It's 6:04 p.m. I'd like to call the June 2nd meeting in the Newbury Conservation Commission meeting to order. Mason, can you please read the preamble to the remote open meeting law and take a roll call of the members present?
As a preliminary matter, this is Mason Ferret, Conservation Agent of the Newbury Conservation Commission. Please permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mary Rimmer,
Yes.
Dave Clifford, Mick
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, David Clifford's here.
Mick Brown,
Yes.
Harry Trout,
Yes.
Woody Knight. Woody on here? I don't see Woody right now. Frank Wettenkamp
Here.
and Bob Connors.
Yes.
Good evening. This open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Newbury Conservation Commission is convening by Zoom call as posted on the agenda of the Conservation Commission section of the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything in the broadcast may be captured by the recording. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and or share information to the screen if able on the fly. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, allow me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business. The chair will first introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your microphone, please use earbuds, and please remember to speak in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you. State your name before speaking. Board and committee members should be called upon in a first name alphabetical order to ease the process. After board and committee members have spoken, the chair will forward public comment as follows. Woody's just joining now. The chair will first seek questions through the chat function. When participants are using this function, please list your name, address, and then your question. The chair will then seek questions from the public who wish to speak. They'll be asked to identify their names, addresses, and questions. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, they'll call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote.
Okay. Thank you, Mason. All right. Upcoming meeting dates. Our next scheduled meeting is July 7th. Meeting minutes review, the May 4th, 2026 minutes in the Dropbox. Why don't we take a moment to review, see if there's any questions, concerns, or corrections?
The May 4th ones are in there, and then the May 19th ones I'm just finishing up, and those will be ready for our next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Mason.
Yep.
Okay, any questions, team, on the minutes, on the May 4th minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the May 4th meeting minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, all in favor. Mary?
I'm sorry, Rob, I haven't had a chance to review them, so.
Okay, all right. Woody?
Yes.
Mick?
Aye.
Harry?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And Bob Connors. All right, the May 19th meeting minutes will be on the July agenda. Let's see, so it's July 7th. Okay. All right, first order of business, continue public hearing, DEP file number 0501453, 34 Central Street. Applicant is submitting a notice of intent, excuse me, for the construction of an MBTA residential housing development at 34 Central Street. Just to remind everyone, we have closed the public hearing. There'll be no public comment. There'll be no introduction of new information at this meeting. And the board will then decide and deliberate. Heidi, can you provide an overview and a recommendation on this matter?
Yes. So this, as Heidi, for the record, Heidi Gaffney, Northwoods Environmental Consultant for the Commission. As the chair stated, the hearing was closed on the 19th. And so tonight is the commission's, sorry, I just heard some strange noises. Tonight is the commission's, to issue a decision. So for the decision, and I have a draft decision to read as well. But my recommendation, based on all of the information submitted throughout the entire public hearing process, would be for the commission to basically issue an approval for a portion of the work. So the portion of the work within the buffer zone, and to prohibit the portions of the work that have direct wetland impacts, which is the crossing, the fill, the wetland replication, the proposed fence, I think, at the wetland replication. And that is in accordance with CMR 10.310 CMR 10.05 6B. And I will read my full recommendation if that's okay with the chair.
Certainly.
So the full recommendation would be for the commission to entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions for Mass DEP 0501453, 34 Central Street, Newbury, Mass, approving the project as shown on the plans, which are the Byfield Heights MBTA zoning residential development. That's the title sheet. And that was last revised February 23rd, 2026. There's sheets 1 through 27 with various revision dates, but the complete final plan is on record to date. With the exception of the wetland impacts associated with the proposed secondary egress, and to condition the approval on compliance with all conditions within the order of conditions as will be issued tonight. And I have a draft order to read into the record when the commission is ready, and for the commission to discuss any changes. And that a final development plan is to be submitted to the Conservation Commission for review and approval. And that plan is to show only the work that is going to be approved by the order as issued by the commission. And it's understood that the Newbury Planning Board decision required the applicant to return as well. So it's understood this plan may not be submitted until the commission, till the Newbury Planning Board has a chance to review the proposed changes as well. And the denial of the wetland crossing and impacts is due to the proposal not meeting stormwater standards or stream crossing standards. So it doesn't meet the performance standards, and therefore that portion should not be approved.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. So team, tonight I'm going to handle this particular matter a little bit differently. I'm going to entertain a motion and in a second, and then we're going to hold for discussion. And at that point, Heidi, we'll be discussing what special conditions would be appropriate and recommended, and then open it up for discussion within the members. And then I'll take a roll call vote, those eligible to vote on this matter. And then the outcome will be the result of the order of conditions with the special conditions being attached. So just wanted to give everybody, it's a little out of the ordinary for us, but it seemed to be appropriate way, the complexity of this project. And I want to thank everybody involved from the design team, certainly Heidi and all the members for your patience, and all of the neighbors that have participated over a better part of a year on this particular matter. So I will entertain a motion that the Newbury Conservation Commission issue an order of conditions, but Mass DEP file number 0501453, 34 Central Street in Newbury, Massachusetts, approving the project as shown on the plans entitled Byfield Heights, MBTA zoning residential development, title sheet last revised on February 23rd, 2026, with the exception of the wetland impacts associated with the proposed secondary egress onto Central Street, including all wetland fill and wetland replication. Approval upon compliance with all conditions contained within the order conditions and further conditioned upon the project proceeding in substantial conformance with a final development plan approved by the Newbury Planning Board that does not require a wetland crossing and shows only the portions of the work approved by the order, which is to be submitted to the Conservation Commission for review and approval. The commission finds that the denial of the wetland crossing is due to the project not meeting stormwater management standards and stream crossing standards to ensure no adverse impacts to the wetland resources.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Discussion. Heidi, do you want to discuss your proposed special
Yes.
conditions? And then I'll
Yes.
open it up to discussion and debate amongst the members.
Yes, please. Yeah, I think that's probably I agree. That's the best way. So what I'd like to do is read the findings first, and then the special conditions.
Excuse me, Heidi, can we, do you have those available to share so that we can follow along?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you, Mary. Excellent
Yeah.
idea.
You just get it pulled up and zoomed in. And screen share. Yep, looks like it will let me. All right, is that visible?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's showing. Yep. So for the order conditions, the form itself, which is the WPA Form 5, that is essentially check boxes, the information, the plans, the dates. So I'm not reviewing that at this time. The check boxes on that form will reflect what the commission's vote is for tonight. But for the special conditions, so the findings, the property contains bank and bordering vegetated wetland, portion of the approximately 10.009 acre parcel currently developed that just has the basics findings for the existing property. The ORAD was issued for 18, verifying certain portions of the BVW, the entirety of the BVW as shown, and the bank on the current plans is not was not all delineated for the ORAD, but that was looked at during a site visit. So the ORAD just specifies only certain portions. The notice of intent was submitted August 18th. Public hearing was open September 2nd. The original NOI as filed was administratively incomplete. Additional information was requested. Original NOI filing proposed a single access roadway from Central Street with all work, was a buffer zone only project as originally proposed. The hearing was continued at the January 6th hearing. The amended NOI with a revised plan was submitted as a result of the planning board review and approval process, which conditioned the planning board approval on the applicant seeking approval from Conservation Commission for a second access way, which proposed a wetland crossing with associated BVW filling and a stream crossing. Due to significant changes in the proposed plan, the commission required the applicant to renotice the butters and place a new legal ad in the paper. That was completed. The NOI was deemed administratively complete. The hearing resumed for full discussion April 7th and was discussed April 7th, May 4th, and May 19th. It was closed May 19th. Abutter comments were received in writing and verbally during the hearing process. Site visit was conducted April 16th. Stormwater review was conducted by the planning board peer review Joe Sirwaka through the planning board process, as well as additional review for the amended filing for the proposed crossing. Determination of applicability was issued in April 2026, allowing for certain portions of the demolition of the existing structures. The applicant's engineer and environmental consultant provided responses to Mass DEP comments listed on the EEA data portal. And the approved plan set includes proposed work that is not approved and is explicitly prohibited by this order, as allowed for by 10.056B. The work associated with the proposed wetland crossing, including the wetland fill, stream crossing, wetland replication, post and rail fence, are explicitly prohibited because the work cannot be conditioned to meet the performance standards under 310 CMR 10.544, 10.554, and 10.056 K through Q. Revised plan showing only the approved work is required to be submitted prior to the start of any work, which is condition 34. Is there any questions on the findings or anything the commission wants added to the findings?
So Heidi, if we refer to the special conditions as identified within attachment A,
Mhm.
that would cover all of the special conditions. That's that document.
Yeah, when you say refer to it in the order form.
Well, we're talking about what special conditions we're considering.
Mhm.
And so I guess what's before the commission is to consider accepting all the special conditions as identified in attachment A, or to modify or amend with additional conditions.
Exactly, yes. So
Okay.
yep,
Okay.
correct. And I just wanted to make sure that findings wise, the commission members didn't have anything they wanted to add there or change.
I have one
Um,
minor comment, Heidi, but
Mhm.
when we get to comments, I'll make it then.
Okay. So then this is really just, citing all of the documents. So condition 22, and some of this is, very boilerplate for standard order, but I'm going to call out the ones that are not. This order of conditions issued in accordance with 10.05.6B, posing conditions necessary for the portions of the work proved to meet the performance standards, prohibiting portions that cannot be conditioned to meet. And the portions of work that are approved and prohibited are detailed under A and B. So work approved includes construction of 4 multi-unit residential buildings, portions of a single access roadway connecting to Central Street, associated driveways, stormwater management, decks, patios, septic system, utilities, grading, landscaping, and other minor work within the 100-foot buffer zone, subject to the conditions. The work prohibited includes the proposed wetland filling, stream crossing, and wetland replication associated with the proposed secondary access to Central Court. Proposed wetland fill and stream crossing does not meet, so that repeats and clarifies that. The post and rail fence can be added into the prohibited if that seems appropriate, since that was associated with the wetland replication. Make that note if the commission doesn't want that in there, but probably should be.
That was going to be my comment.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's it, but I don't have an objection to them keeping the post and rail fence. It might serve as a barrier, so we might want to just take any reference to that out, but we can talk about that when you're finished.
Okay. A lot of this is, I'm happy to stop if anyone wants me to, but a lot of this is just standard. The members, the applicant, how it applies, this is very standard. Equipment shall not cross or enter the wetlands. Any changes, unforeseen problems, completion of the project for certificate of compliance. This is all fairly normal, the as-built plan, with grades and topography and inverts and stuff. Submittal of required operation and maintenance compliance statement. That's as required by condition 19C, which is in the form itself, from DEP, standard condition DEP. Letter from the environmental monitor, which there's a monitoring condition we'll go over, and submittal of a final report describing the success of BVW restoration plantings, and that was something I put in. Restoration of part of the degraded wetland was proposed at the very last meeting, and the commission can choose whether that stays, or whether that portion is approved or whether that is prohibited as part of the wetland crossing. That is standard prior to the start of construction. Per the certificate of approval issued by the planning board, which includes portions of work prohibited by this order, the applicant will need to seek a modification of the decision from the planning board. A final revised plan set approved by the planning board showing only the portions of work approved by this order, including the single access, shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission for review and approval. Final revised plan set, once approved by the commission, shall be attached to and recorded with the order and would act as the official approved plan at that point. This is standard submitting names, addresses. So this one I call out for the commission, and I highly recommend a environmental monitor be required. So the applicant shall designate a wetland scientist or other approved environmental professional as an environmental monitor to oversee all work within the 100-foot buffer zone and conduct bi-weekly, once every 2 weeks, seemed like an appropriate schedule, bi-weekly inspections of the erosion and sedimentation controls, placement of emergency controls, general monitor on the status of ongoing compliance with the order. Name, phone number, and email address of the monitor must be provided prior to the start of construction. The monitor shall report in writing, email or regular mail to the NCC prior to the commencement of construction, every 30 days during construction, and for as long thereafter as the ground remains unstable, as well as upon completion of the project until such time as a COC is issued for the project. Reports shall include an update on the status of the erosion controls and what work within 100 feet of the wetlands has been completed and what work is proposed for the next 2-week period. This is all pretty normal for this one, construction sequence. This project is subject to the NIFTY's construction general permit. So prior to the commencement of work, the applicant needs to submit evidence of compliance with that and a copy of their stormwater pollution prevention plan, their SWIP. This is routine, maintain flagging, pre-application meeting, construction vehicles to be cleaned prior to entering the site. Make sure the work is supervised. These are all standard conditions. This is a standard 43 is a standard condition for Newbury regarding the invasive plants and making sure that those are not transmitted. No additional clearing or grading within the 100-foot buffer zone to wetlands other than shown on the approved plans and detailed by the order. Natural areas designated in the designated work area, not part of the scope or not to be used for parking. So no additional clearing within the buffer zone for extra parking, things like that. Hazardous materials spill kit for the equipment. No clearing before the pre-activity meeting. Tree cutting, that's standard too. Sediment erosion controls. Temporary gravel, crushed stone, construction entrance. That's something that's required by the construction general permit and SWIP as well. So it's detailed on sheet 23 of the plan set. That's before the commission as well. But just the standard condition that has to get put in, and it'll either meet the spec sheet or the SWIP, or probably it's both. So that shall serve as the line limit of work. Minimum required erosion control barriers, staked Filtrex silt sock or comparable bark mulch or compost filter sock. Filtrex silt socks are proposed on the plan, but that always leaves the option for something similar. 12-inch minimum diameter, inspected and approved by the environmental monitor. Has to be installed before work commences. Straw wattles are not adequate, and that's why the comparable bark or compost filtered straw wattles would not be sufficient for this type of project. Any netting shall be biodegradable. Minimum reserve, 200 linear feet. If the commission feels that is too much or too little, we can adjust that, but they should have some extra emergency erosion control on site. Erosion control barriers inspected weekly, immediately following any storm event greater than 1 inch rainfall in a 24-hour period. That is fairly standard. Accumulated silt to be removed by hand. Wetland flags, barriers remain in place. No debris buried. Stockpiles need to be maintained properly. Fill has to be taken care of appropriately. Stormwater management, no direct discharge of stormwater runoff into streams or other wetland areas. They have to report anything right away. Maintenance and repair of the stormwater management system, including all structures and the bioretention basins, shall be the responsibility of the applicant, property owner, homeowner or homeowners association, or designee. Design capacity, stormwater management treatment. It is a fairly standard one, but the HOA eventually would be the responsible party. But up until then, it kind of follows the responsibility. And this condition survives the expiration of the OOC, included as a continuing condition in the COC at the time a COC is issued. And then there's annual inspection rights. This OOC applies only to the proposed and approved portions of construction activities in the buffer zone. Anything that changes has to have a separate permit. Fill has to be clean. Limit of work. Disturbed areas need to be stabilized by November 15th. That's all fairly standard. Runoff from washing work. Let's see, anything else different? Refueling pumps, generators, vegetative debris, uprooted stumps. And I can go slower on the standard ones if anyone wants. Non-organic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides shall not be used within 100 feet. No sodium chloride shall be used within 100 feet of the wetland resource area if the area will drain to a resource area or in regulated buffer zone without significant dilution treatment. Any contract or agreement for snow or ice removal shall so stipulate. No oil, calcium chloride, or road salt to be used during construction for control of dust. Underground storage of fuels prohibited. So snow, this one's specific to this. Snow shall be managed in accordance with the Stormwater Management BMP Inspection and Maintenance Plan. A certified Green Snow Pro contractor, which is part of what is in the applicant's submittal. A Green Snow Pro contractor trained in the best management practices for road salt de-icing shall be used for all winter maintenance. No snow dump shall be allowed on site. No snow is to be stockpiled within the bioretention ponds or adjacent to the wetland resource areas. No snow stockpiling or similar signage shall be installed in the area of sediment forebay number 1 to prevent inadvertent snow stockpiling in the event that snow storage areas are inundated at any given winter. Snow shall be trucked off-site and disposed of in accordance with all applicable laws and regulations. Pet waste stations, and this is something the commission had talked about too, with waste receptacles shall be installed in the area of the proposed dog park as well as appropriate areas around the development. And the disposal of the waste and maintenance of the pet waste station shall be incorporated into the final maintenance plan for the HOA development. Proposed off-site improvements within the town's right-of-way shall be reviewed and approved by the town prior to commencement of those improvements. I understand that it was already brought to the select board, but important to have that condition in there since it is off property work. And then this is for the wetland restoration if the commission chooses to incorporate it. So the 4,018 square feet of existing degraded BVW shall be planted in accordance with the proposed wetland restoration shown in sheet 27. As described in the report, all planting of the BVW restoration area shall be done by hand. A final report describing the success. And that's something that for the commission to decide whether to condition or not. This is standard, no invasive plants. Certificate of compliance everything needs to be stabilized. And the maintenance plan should be submitted to the commission for review prior to the issuance, and then the continuing conditions, which are just all of those conditions which will survive the order of conditions.
So I have just a couple of questions and then I'll reach out to all the members for their questions. So on the we've referenced you had suggested putting in adding a sign in the bioretention area that it cannot be used for snow dumping or snow storage. Um, so have you covered that? I thought that was a good recommendation during during the hearing process, and I would suggest that that be added. The other question I had, I have two other questions. Plan acceptance process by whom? So there's going to be a revised set of plans sent to the planning board, uh, identifying the actual work that's going to be performed outside of the wetland resource area and no crossing. Once that is done, Heidi, within the condition, what's the process? Is that something that you, because you'll be likely be the person dealing with this, is that something that'll be handled administratively, or does that have to come back before the commission for a board vote? And how does that impact the issuance of the order of conditions?
So for the first question for the snow stockpiling, no snow stockpiling sign, that is incorporated, sediment forebay number one. Seemed like the most appropriate spot because it is the closest to the road. So yes, that did get incorporated.
Okay.
For the plan acceptance, because it's a condition, pre-construction condition. So what will happen is the applicant will go back to the planning board because the planning board decision states that they have to. The outcome of that, obviously, if the work approved by the order ultimately becomes not work approved or not an approved plan by the planning board, then the applicant will have decisions to make from there. But presuming that the applicant goes back to planning board and the planning board's able to accept a plan that incorporates the work approved by the order, which is basically everything except the crossing, then that final plan set will just get submitted to conservation and copied to me like in a normal process. It will be put on an agenda for the commission just to review and approve. It will be a vote to approve it as
Administratively
as
approved.
acceptable, but it's administratively approved. It's not part of, it's a
Right.
slightly different process. But
Okay.
it will be for the whole commission to look at to make sure that it is what was required. And that is basically an administrative approval for saying, yes, you meet this prior to construction condition. The plan looks good, and then they go record it, and then they start their work.
Okay.
Assuming all the other pre-construction conditions are met.
Okay, my last question is, per the Mullen rule, who is eligible to vote tonight, or who is not? Might be easier to.
Yep. So it is actually just, I have that right here, just Harry and David will need to abstain.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Questions from the members. Barry, questions for Heidi on this order on this matter?
I want to thank Heidi for her hard work on this. It's been a lot of work and it's a big project for the town. I do agree with her conclusions about how to go about handling this project. It was unfortunate that it came about this way, where we did agree that a secondary access could be allowed in theory, provided it met their performance standards, and in which case, in the end, it did not fully meet the performance standards. So I think that we have, just as for the rest of the members, really just, we have the discretion to allow this filling to occur, but only to occur if it meets all the other standards laid out in the regulations. So, we're bound by this Wetland Protection Act and the regulations that it spells out for us. So I think this is the correct decision, in my opinion. I had some minor thoughts about the order of conditions. I thought it was very comprehensive and covers all the important bases. One small point was about the post and rail fence that was originally proposed between the wetland restoration area. There was an area that was replication, that was mitigation for the wetland filling. And then in addition to that, there was some additional portions of the wetland boundary that occurred underneath the chicken coops and whatnot. That was actually just lawn, and that was proposed to be restored as part of that wetland. And then we were going to have require a post and rail fence that would establish the boundary to that. I think that it still is worthwhile to include that because it would create a barrier to the restoration area as well, theoretically. So I don't necessarily think we need to keep that in the prohibited uses category, in my opinion. And just double check your allowable uses in your findings include the restoration area, Heidi. I scrolled through quickly and I couldn't catch that.
Yeah, I was just I was trying to pull the plan back up, but let me pull the so let's double check that. So work approved. So no, that is not in the approved because it was I wanted to see if the commission wanted to
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
require that as a
my
condition.
recommendation would be to include that in that 22A category.
So
I agree with Mary on that too. I think
Okay.
it's so.
Just so it's clear.
Mary, can you repeat that? What you want to have?
So there's some this sort of restoration of existing wetland that they had proposed, and we'd like to keep that work in as part of the allowed work.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll pull the
Yeah.
plan up too while we're talking.
Just to clarify, this is covered under the term degraded wetlands, correct? Is that what you're speaking of?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Yes, they were. Yeah. Not in the context of riverfront area degraded, but yes, they were
Right.
generally degraded. With respect to the environmental monitor and doing inspections, I was just confused about how that relates to the stormwater inspections in condition 51 has weekly inspections of the erosion control barrier and inspections after any rainfall of greater than 1/4 of an inch, which is the standard that's required for the SWIP anyway. They have to do that. They're subject to National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, permitting because they're a construction site of greater than 1 acre in size. So they have to comply with these EPA rules as well for stormwater management. And so condition 51 covers that. Well, at least they have to report those inspections to us, those regular inspections. But then there's an additional environmental monitor that does bi-weekly inspections, and it sounds like they're covering some of the same ground. So I just was wondering how if we're duplicating any efforts there.
So the weekly inspection and under the NIPD's under the SWIP, that's required of the
Contractor.
contractor. Well, it's required of the person who is named on
Yes.
the person named as the responsible party for the construction general permit in the SWIP. So that is their responsibility.
So could we just add that to special condition 51? That's what Mick was going to say. Yeah. So just add that language to special condition 51 that's on the contractor. That's separate.
Okay.
Right.
Monitor. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that to fall on the responsibility of the environmental monitor.
Right.
We want to define that as the contractor's responsibility to inspect and upkeep erosion control.
And I'm fine with having an environmental monitor. That the environmental monitor should be subject to approval. The qualifications should be subject to approval by the commission or its designated agent.
Mhm.
And that, often it's a once a week event for large projects like this. So I can go either way on the bi-weekly or weekly, but I think certain times of year and certain periods of construction require a weekly inspection. Lots can happen in 2 weeks.
In a week.
Some of these, sites. So it would be my recommendation, maybe just change that to once a week. You had a condition about parking. And I think it was around number 45.
Yes, that's actually a standard condition I've seen
Okay.
for Newbury.
Yes,
Where was it?
okay, 45, yep.
Was it 45? Yeah,
Yep.
that's a standard condition that Newbury has included
Okay.
in other development projects,
Okay.
so I wanted to leave it.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that. I hadn't seen that one before. And then my last comment is number 57 has to do with no discharge of stormwater directly to the wetland.
Mhm.
You know, do we need to add something, and maybe Mick, you can help on the language on this, but about dewatering, if there's dewatering, that it needs to be directed to a sediment basin or other BMP, because
Sure.
we don't have any specific condition for dewatering, and sometimes that is separate from stormwater management. It's because you're intercepting groundwater, but somewhere we need to, there should be a provision about dewatering.
Yeah, generally, I would think dewatering, if we're going to, if there's going to be dewatering activities, I think what's commonly done is it's discharged to a frac tank. And the frac tank allows settling of the sediments and other solids within that. And it can be approved by the environmental monitor for discharge following, fractionation in those tanks.
So maybe we just say that any dewatering occurs, with a dewatering plan approved by the environmental monitor or something. Because then you could have something more modest if it's just a small effort, a small excavation. You might just use a hay bale pen or something like that to discharge the
Yeah.
water into, so it doesn't.
Yeah, I think we just want
Truck-
to condition that some effort is that a good faith effort is made to remove sediments and other solids from dewatering activities before they're discharged any retention pond or any resource area.
Right. So maybe it doesn't go under the stormwater management section. Maybe it's a construction condition.
Yeah.
Heidi?
Yep, I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I typically see that under the general construction conditions, and to be approved by the environmental monitor sounds very reasonable, because if, like you said, if it's a small area, they might do a ring of something, or if it's larger, they're going to need the frac tank. But yeah, I agree. Separate condition under the normal standard conditions, and there's pretty standard language for dewatering, so that's no
Yes.
problem to add.
Okay.
Mary,
Well,
anything else?
No, thank you, Bob. That's all my
Okay,
comments.
yeah, I'll circle back. And just to reiterate what Mary was saying, on the stormwater, it's a pass-fail standard. There is no discretion within the authority of the commission. And ultimately, that's what resulted in the crossing being denied. Okay, Woody, questions for Heidi or comments you just want to make in general?
I have a few comments and a clarification question, which you kind of briefly just touched on.
Okay, thank you. Woody.
I'd like to thank Heidi for all your hard work. I know coming in on this with Mason's recusal and everything, and with this not running concurrent with our planning board process, makes it a little tough. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Now, tonight, this condition we just went through will be voted on with the exclusion of the wetland crossing. And the wetland crossing won't be a separate vote based on it not meeting stormwater standards, correct? Is that a correct assumption?
It's within the wording of the motion
Yep,
that
So they won't-
addressed that, so,
yep, we won't be having a separate vote for the stormwater. for the
right, yeah. So
wetland crossing.
the last paragraph of the
Correct.
motion is the commission finds that the denial of the wetland crossing is due to the project not meeting stormwater management standards and storm crossing standards to ensure no adverse impacts to the wetland resource.
Okay. Thank you for
And-
that clarification.
Yeah, and Woody,
Okay,
just to clarify further for everyone, because the crossing doesn't meet stream crossing standards or stormwater, and like Mary said, it's a pass fail. Because that portion doesn't meet it, the commission really can't exercise their discretion as far as approving it. And in the regulations in 310 CMR, that 10.056B, that is where it clarifies that the commission shall issue an order conditioning, blah, 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 and it says, and prohibiting those portions that do not meet and cannot be conditioned to meet the performance standards. So that's where that comes from, but it is all wrapped into one. It has to be one vote, one motion, because a vote to deny the crossing can't be done separate from approval of the rest of the work without either a total denial or a total approval. So this is the only way to separate it out.
All right, thank you very much, Heidi.
Anything
Good,
else there,
Bob.
Woody?
No, I'm good. Thank you both.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Woody. Mick, questions or comments? for Heidi?
No, I think Mary and Woody have hit a lot of the main points here. Great job, and thank you, Heidi, for all your efforts. This is a really well thought out document.
Thank you.
I do agree with weekly inspections by the environmental monitor as opposed to bi-weekly. And the fencing, my only concern with the fencing, and I think it's right to have it there as a kind of a visual protective barrier. Do we need to have language in there? It may be if it's subject to change based on the removal of the wetland crossing from the construction plans. If there's no expected change in the fencing, I don't think we need to make mention of it. But if it does change, then we need to be able to, just note that in the approval process. That
Yep.
if there are changes to the fence, that we need to be able to see that.
So the fence, I'll try to outline it, and I am never as good at drawing on these as I would like to be. So I will use my pointer because there's a neat way to
Yeah.
draw, but I'll end up messing it up if I try. So right here, the squares with the lines here, that's the fence.
Yep.
So the fence in its entirety is currently proposed outside of the wetland. So the wetland flags are here. And the fence follows down and then ends here. So that is a very good call because the order obviously does modify what's going to happen right through here. All the work has to stay outside the wetland here. But for the fence itself, it does stay just outside, but it does stay outside and it does stop. So I think we should be okay there.
Yeah, I think just to add language to say, we approve
Doesn't
the
it
installation
continue?
of the fence if it's consistent with the current plan.
Can you scroll down once? Oh, I just want
This way or the other way?
Okay, there it is. All right, now I see where it ends. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, limit of proposed, yeah, right.
Yes. Okay,
Right
so
here
they're not going to
ends.
extend it closer to the street.
But the order does modify, like the erosion controls are shown coming down in here. The
Yep.
order does modify that by prohibiting work within the
Yep.
wetlands. So the erosion control will have to go around there. But the post and rail fence should be fine. And I wanted to show for the commission. So this was the wetland restoration area, this gray hashed mark.
Mhm.
And that's where, it's all currently lawn and it was animal pens and things like that. This area out here was the wetland replication, which is currently upland, was proposed to be turned into wetland. But the wetland restoration out here is currently degraded wetland. And
Yep.
with all the planting done by hand should be a benefit to restore that.
That was just to clearly define that we approve the installation of the fence as shown on this plan. If there's any changes in the revised plan that's coming up,
Exactly.
that we need to at least be able to approve that, or that it remains outside the wetland resource.
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay.
Mick, anything else?
No, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mick. Harry, Any comments or questions on this application?
I do have a few comments and I'll echo everyone else. Heidi, thank you very much for all your hard work on this. It was a great document to read and understand our position here. Just to echo Mick's, I agree with the once a week visit with the environmental monitor. I think it truly makes sense due to the size of this project. That's all I have, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Frank, any comments or questions for Heidi?
No, I don't have any comments or questions. I think everything's been pretty well covered.
No, I agree. Thank you, Frank. David, how about yourself? Any questions or comments for Heidi on this application? You're on mute, David, if you
Sorry. No, I think they've already been covered by the other folks on the team.
yeah, I agree. It's been very thorough. And I have no further questions. Heidi, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just wanted to double check with the commission about the amount of reserve erosion control, emergency reserve erosion control, which presumably will be an additional length of whatever sock they end up using. Is 200 linear feet sound
How
too
many-
much, too little?
No, 20-foot lengths, I think, or I can't remember the 20 or 25-foot
It
lengths.
depends on what you get. I
Huh?
know.
Yeah,
No, I
So-
think, I mean, what's the total linear foot of sock that's going to be installed now?
You know, I didn't add it up. I should have, but it's
why don't you just say
a lot.
20%?
10%?
Yeah, or 20 even.
Okay. Use a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, do you want 10%, 20%? What do you think would be reasonable on that?
I don't know. I think 10% is reasonable based on, we've probably got, I would say, I'm going to say probably 1,000 feet or so,
That's what I would guess as well.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe 1,200 feet. I think 10% would, or 20% would bring us to 200 feet. So I think, going back to what Mary said, if it's 1,000 feet, 20% seems reasonable.
Okay. Other than that, I think I've got all the changes, and for the environmental monitor, that will be also as the monitor is as approved to be approved by the commissioner or agent, just so that we know who the monitor is and it's an approved monitor. So yeah, I think I've got the notes for all the changes, and I will incorporate the changes for the commission. They can it could be issued. So no additional questions. Thank you everyone for your time and efforts. This one has not been easy. It's
Yeah.
been very complex, and the commission did a great job.
Okay, Mary, anything else any other comments you have that before we entertain a vote?
Nope.
Okay, Mick, anything else?
No further comments. Thank you, Bob.
Woody, how about you? Any further comments?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Woody. How about David, how about yourself?
No, Bob.
Thank you, David. Frank, how about you? Any further comments?
No, thank you.
Harry, how about yourself? Anything else?
No comments, Bob.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and the special conditions are identified within attachment A. That's what Heidi has presented with the noted additional changes. With that, I'd call for a roll call. All in favor? Mary,
Yes.
Woody,
Yes.
Mick,
Aye.
Harry, you need to abstain. Frank,
Yes.
David, and you're in the same boat as Harry. You need
Yes.
to abstain.
Right.
And Bob Connors votes yes. Okay. Heidi, thank you. And just a shout out to Mary. Mary has spent a lot of time and energy on this.
Yes.
And want to thank all the members for your due diligence on this. This is one of those unicorn projects that we're usually looking at a house lot that's putting a deck on it or a replacement. 45 house lot subdivision in this location is very unique, but thank you. Okay, next order of business. Continue public hearing, DEP file number 0501464, 54 Cottage Road. The applicant has submitted a notice of intent to propose a replacement existing single-family home within the riverfront area and the construction of an elevated dock. Mason, can you provide an overview, an update on the site inspection and a recommendation?
Yep, so some of the board and I went out to review the proposal on site. We were able to go over the planting plan with Tom, look at some of the trees he was planning on removing. And then we were also able to look at the corners of the new house and garage that they had staked out. I believe where we left off at the last meeting was Tom was going to be talking and working with the neighbors to work on some of the comments that they had to see if they could change the site plan around to appease the comments and also still fit within their riverfront regulations and other setbacks. So my recommendation, if we have Tom kind of go through the changes that he made, and then from there we can open it up to the board for questions.
Okay, Tom, if you could just identify yourself and your position within the project, and I ask you to be concise as possible.
Sure. This is Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting. And I'm here on behalf of John Hopkins, who is the applicant looking to build a new home. And we did make some changes, and I also updated the narrative. We had to do a lot of new math as a result of the changes. So the updated narrative I provided in red line strikeout, as well as clean version, and went through, removed any claims of exemption. The math works. One small thing I can show the commission, but we did remove the proposed stepping stones, which were 3x3 flagstones, and just went with a mode path, which we demonstrated compliance with the riverfront standards under two different approaches. One is a hybrid approach recognized by DEP on administrative appeals, where you take 1058-4 and 1058-5, and you kind of combine by taking your degraded riverfront plus 10%. But we also went through the entire math of 1058-5, which is a degraded riverfront standard, and using a combination of one-to-one direct full restoration of riverfront combined with mitigation of riverfront at 2-to-1. The math works there as well. So we've provided all that in some detail. I've gone through it and I'm confident that we meet the river standards. And the river standards are perhaps the most complex of all the performance standards in the Wetland Protection Act. If it's okay with the chairman, I'm just going to share screen and quickly walk you through.
Certainly, that'd be great. Thank you.
Done. Yeah.
So, Tom, have you submitted the updated plan set and updated narrative based on your discussion with the neighbors and
Yes.
with the commission during the site visit?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
So we don't need to go back through this presentation file, but I can do that if need be. So a few things that I mentioned at the last hearing, that we identified this with leaf out, and this tree right here is actually a Norway. So we've updated the existing condition plan. That's the only change on that plan. So what we were able to do is we did a combination of sliding the whole house and pool and patio, sliding it and also doing a slight rotation. And by doing that, we're actually able to get 10 feet to the stairway, which was one of the concerns of the neighbors up on this side. And we actually get even more to the pool. I think it's 12.7 in that area. The other change that came about with some discussions with the building inspector, basically what we're showing right now, we had shown a smaller footprint of a garage that was going to be 2-story by right. There was some back and forth with the building inspector, and given the limited amount of time we had, what we did is we put the largest footprint that we could come to agreement with him is by right, which we're seeking approval. we have presented a alternate footprint to the Killam's to see if they would support that, which would, if they do, then we'll be back after we work things through the building office and perhaps needing is, whether or not we need to go to zoning to get something approved. But we needed to have some kind of fallback in this plan for approval. Any change is either going to be upward or slightly outward and kind of over in this direction, because we can't go any closer to the roadway to get a single level garage. So we're trying to accommodate their concern about the second story and have a garage size that meets the client's needs. But we don't want to cross over the riverfront because I don't want to change the riverfront numbers. And the issue that was being discussed with the building inspector is the offset to this jog in the side property line. So that this whole thing is out in the floodplain only. It's not in any other resource area. So that so right now we're asking for approval for this footprint, but we may very well be back with a minor revision on that, or an amendment depending on the circumstances. So we've got all our impact numbers. One of the things you'll note is on things like buffer zone to salt marsh. We're getting almost all the impacts with the exception of a tiny bit of the end of the pool. That's the only real hardscape besides the dock that exists within 50 feet of the salt marsh in our proposed versus the existing condition, which has most of the house that exists there today and some of the hardscapes. We're making real good improvements there. We were able to make this change and stay, I'll go to the civil plan. We're able to stay just outside the ACEC, even with that movement because of the rotation of the house, the way we were able to make that work. So we still kept the building out of the ACEC, so within the ACEC itself, other than the dock, it's all going to be vegetated, and the vast majority, this area here is all either full restoration, which involves trees, shrubs, and herbaceous, or it is mitigation, which means it's just purely native, but maybe shrub only or herbaceous only. And we've given you a planting plan that kind of details that out. One of the things we did with the planting plan is we went and met with the neighbor that's on the other side of the right-of-way that you access. And he's got a fairly unique view, which is normally it's canopy that gets in the way, but with him, his view is under the canopy. We have a bunch of mature trees. The canopies start at about 6 feet up. And what we've done is we've gone to shorter versions of some of the native shrubs. And then we've, on the 3 mature trees that we're proposing in here, there's 2 red maple, and I'm trying to remember what the other species is there. But anyhow, what we've done with those trees is we're basically going to have saplings that are larger, so the canopy starts at 6 foot or higher when they go in the ground. So what we'll be doing is we are still meeting all our riverfront standards, needs for mitigation and restoration, but we will be trying to keep that sandwich between what's, the lower growing vegetation and the canopy open enough so he gets his view. The other thing that will, while there may be some shrubs that kind of block a little bit of the view in some places, the removal of that Norway maple should also, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, certainly open it up, and they won't make it any worse. The canopy will be at 6 feet or taller, so the view will still exist.
Tom, I'm going to make a suggestion. Why don't I just hold you there? We'll open this up to questions from the members, and then, certainly the neighbors will have some questions. I think you've done an excellent job of identifying the changes that you're proposing. So let me hold you there and open this up to the members. Mary, questions for Tom on the submittal?
Yes, thanks, Tom. And I was not able to make the site visit, so I'm not as familiar with the property, at least from the land side. I am familiar with it from the water side.
Yep.
So just so I understand your math of the riverfront, can you go to the sheet that has the table on the riverfront area?
Yeah.
So you have yeah, if you can just blow that up a little bit. So you've got a total of in the inner and outer riverfront area totals 23, almost 24,000 square feet. 11,438 and 12,000.
It's right here, 23,910.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got, so 10% of that. So for the members again, you can alter up to 10% of the riverfront area on your lot for new development. Redevelopment is a little bit different standard. As Tom mentioned, he's sort of doing a combination of both. So he's going over the 10%, which would be the 2,391 square feet. That is allowable. He's going up to 3,833 square feet, which is the total amount of proposed alteration. So that leaves a difference of 1,442 square feet. That's in addition to the 10% that needs to be mitigated 2 to 1. So they allow you to go over the 10% if you can provide legitimate mitigation enhancement of a resource, but it has to be twice as big as the amount of impact. So you need about almost 3,000 square feet of 2,800 or so square feet of mitigation. So the mitigation areas that you're showing on the plan are a combination, and this is where I'm getting a little bit lost. So
Yeah.
restoration areas in the dark green, those areas are currently lawn, is that correct?
Yeah, so these areas, there is some lilac in this area here. There are some invasives, like the line between this invasive area and here, there are some invasives that kind of get into the edge of the lawn, but primarily this is lawn. Basically everywhere where there's not a tree or some of these periphery shrubs that are there, and there's knotweed growing in lilacs kind of in this area, and there's really no native shrub cover on site. It's for the most part, old landscape plants or invasives.
Okay. And so you're doing restoration of 2866.
Yeah, but we can't count, as you know, we can't count all of that at 1-to-1. We can only count up to the existing degraded at 1-to-1.
Right.
So what we've done is in the areas that generally qualify for restoration at 1-to-1, you have to have all 3 layers. You have to have canopy, you have to have trees, you have to have shrubs, and you have to have herbaceous. So the areas that are shown on this plan in the darker green generally include, within proximity of all the plants, you have shrubs, herbaceous, and tree.
Yeah, I'm just
So-
keeping it simple here, though. I'm just
Right.
You need roughly 3,000 square feet of mitigation, one way
Yeah.
or another. And that means that it needs to be meaningful mitigation. So it's not necessarily planting a garden. I just want to make sure the property owner understands that this is intended to be a naturalized area, that it would be planted with native plants and allowed to provide habitat. And it's not like a mulched garden with landscape plantings. It's an actual, enhanced buffer area. So just
Right.
wanted to make sure that is clearly understood. And then if you scroll down to the bottom of the plan where you've got your areas of
Right.
colored areas, I can't see the bottom of your plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Natives mitigation area is around the house. And I noticed that there's on your planting list, there's a number of non-native species listed. So are any of those in areas where you're counting mitigation?
Yeah, so let me go to the landscape plan. What I had the landscape architect do is he shaded anything that was non-native.
Okay.
So they're all in the floodplain area, but not within riverfront. So,
None
so
of
the
those are
I,
counting towards your mitigation. Okay.
right. So there's restoration and then there's mitigation. The 2-to-1 standard is for areas that don't otherwise conform to the criteria. So you get some flexibility, but you have to provide twice as much in the 2-to-1. And for that, these are landscape beds around the building, but they're all entirely within riverfront. They're entirely native species, and they're replacing lawn. They're vastly improving, even though they're up against the building, vastly improving the function of the riverfront over current. And the other thing that we could also claim 2-to-1 for, but just like is the ACEC reclaim that we're getting,
Yeah,
where we're
That's
removing a
that's a
building.
benefit too.
And I did not add that in. I just wanted to get so I could show that the math worked.
Yeah.
Because the hybrid approach is the cleanest way to do it. It's the easiest math to do, and that is you just do your 1-to-1 and you add that to the so you add your degraded to 10%, and that gives you your limit, but then you do have to support it with the alternatives analysis.
Yep. So just so I understand the amount of are you highlighting the amount of 2-to-1 air mitigation on your plan? Is that
So yeah,
that
so
what the color that's the darker color?
so the darker color, well, the darker color includes both.
Okay.
To actually have to figure out how to get out of this 2,866, 1,000, whatever this is, 400 and something square feet, and figure out what polygon that is. We did not go to that level. I basically worked with the landscape architect to come up with a landscape design for areas that met restoration criteria. And then we just gave those areas. Then my 1,400, whatever it is, comes out of that, and everything left remains to be counted under the 2-to-1.
Yeah. I came to it a different way, but essentially we're coming up with similar numbers. So I'm satisfied that you're meeting that requirement and for riverfront area. Now I just wanted to go to you're showing some mitigation on the bank, and it looks like that is mostly poison ivy control, or is there other stuff?
No, there's honeysuckle, there's some multiflora, I believe. It's primarily invasives. So on the area near the dock, this area looks like it's been mowed on an ongoing basis, and then it gets shrubby on this end, and probably the best way to show that is to look at these photos. Give me a second.
Yeah, so my concern would just be that that's really close proximity to the resource, and getting rid of those shrubs and pulling out those roots because they're going to sprout even if you treat them.
Right.
Can you meet your numbers without touching the bank, except for the whatever?
I think if
You
I
need to
threw
get
the
access to the
ACE,
dock.
yeah, I think if I threw the ACEC in, yes, right.
Oh.
So the ACEC, if you take a look at the numbers, we'll go back to that in a second. But I just want to point out, so this area is just getting straggling stuff that is kind of coming into a bank that doesn't have a lot of woody vegetation except kind of coming in. There is some poison ivy, but there's also little bits of bittersweet that are trying to make their way in. Over in here, we've got a lot more invasives in this section. And what I would envision, and we'd be happy to accept a condition that this invasive work be, done under the supervision of or oversight of an environmental monitor. I normally recommend that we use companies that have some of their staff have been through the UMass training program, and we would use aquatic safe formulations of glyphosate, and for the knotweed we'd use, I'm sorry, of glyphosate would be for the knotweed, we'd use triclopyr for the woody stuff. And typically I wouldn't do any pulling if it's right up next to the marsh of anything of any significant size. We try to kill it while it's standing, and then once we confirm it's dead, then we would cut it at its base
Yep.
and then plant.
So my opinion on that area would be using herbicides in an ACEC that close to the salt marsh. You know, if it was a one and done kind of practice and it was really going to make a big difference, then I might be convinced. But you need to do this over and over again to really control these species. They're really tough to control with herbicides. And so I think enhancement plantings in that area to try to crowd out other stuff would be fine. But I am not in favor of using herbicides in that area as part of that enhancement. So that's my thought on that. And then the dock itself, are you reusing these piles? Or are you putting in all new piles?
We're going to be pulling the piles and replacing them. And
Can we cut them at grade rather than pull them?
well, we would prefer to pull them because some of the spacing is uneven on these. Let me go back to the civil plan. The existing piles are in kind of funky locations. We're not reusing these ones down here that are beyond mean high.
Are you using helicals?
No, because of ice, the recommendation for this area is to stick with wood. And what we would do, and this has been done elsewhere, we would during the dormant season, we would essentially take the new pile location. We would do a literal cut of the salt marsh vegetation in the new pile location, and we would pull the old pile, basically get that appropriately with the appropriate soil material filled up, and then put the salt marsh sod essentially into that hole. And essentially we're transplanting the pile area, and the restoration works really well. You just have to do it in the dormant season. And
do you have to bring in material to fill in the holes?
I would normally, depending on how deep it is, I would normally just try to get it out of the new hole before we drove the pile.
But do you need additional material to fill in the hole?
I don't know how deep those are. We might, in which case you basically build using like a plywood and tarps, you essentially build a temporary sleeve so you don't make any mess anywhere, and you would use a compatible material,
Okay.
similar grain size and
I don't recall with the dock we recently permitted across the street on Marsh Ave. I thought that was helicals there.
Yeah, that area is a little bit more sheltered. It's closer to the bridge, and it's further in the river. This is if you take a look in either direction, there are no docks without the wooden piles. And my understanding is you do get a lot of ice that gets in here, and you want that wooden pile to
Yeah, I think that there's a potential for quite a lot of impact from removing the piles and from driving new piles and staging on this marsh with equipment that needs to drive the piles. So I don't see any of that secondary impact that's addressed here. So I have a lot of concerns about the construction of the dock, and I guess I'll pass it over to you, Bob, after those are my comments.
On that, what I would suggest is we still need to go through Army Corps permitting on that. And what I would suggest is perhaps a condition that prior to constructing the dock, we provide you with the means and methods for review and approval for installation to show that there'll be no adverse effects on the marsh. But
yeah, that not quite what I'm looking for, but
Okay, Mary, why don't I do this? I'll circle back and I'll move on if that's okay.
okay.
All right, thank you, Mary. Woody, questions for Tom on this submittal?
With the shifting of the house, that's still, I was on the site walk. I saw trees that were being removed. I believe we determined it was a red oak, the old tree with the very level branches. Is that a red oak, correct, Tom?
I think so. I think
The
there's
white.
one, you're talking about the one that's further out.
Yeah, does that fall within the footprint of the new house?
Yeah, so there's a red oak that looks like it has some white oak characteristics I think we were looking at within the leaf, but that is probably best shown. Oh, I know it's on the sorry, there's a demo plan here that shows, yeah, that's this 46-inch oak that's out in the floodplain only beyond the riverfront.
Okay, and that's still slated to be removed.
Yeah, that's basically that's right in the heart of the area where the garage and house and parking and all that kind of stuff end up. And there's really no way to avoid that one.
Yeah, so the shifting of the house, like you were stating in the beginning, doesn't save that tree. All right.
No, no. I mean, we would actually have to shift everything the other way over the neighbor's property line in a way that, is just not a chance
Feasible.
that we could do
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more questions or comments right now, Bob. Thank you.
Okay,
And
thank
you,
you.
Tom.
Thank you, Woody. Mick, any questions or comments for Tom on this
Uh,
submittal?
no, not at this time. Yeah, it was a good lesson in dendrology, I think, Tom, when we were out there. So,
Yeah.
a lot of unique tree species, but I do agree that, some of them are, a lot of them are not necessarily natural plantings. And the bank area, um, I don't know if you have the opportunity, but you really do have to get your eyes on it. It's the growth there. I would question putting in plantings and hoping that they overtake the existing, poison ivy and other kind of ground vine. Those are pretty aggressive plants, and if your plantings did survive, I think they would eventually be overtaken by poison ivy and some of the other kind of vine growth that's in there. So maybe just to get a better clarification, Tom, on exactly what, is going to be removed. And again, I'm not sure you're going to knock that stuff back with, it's going to take more than one application of an herbicide.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe cutting back and then applying, an uptake herbicide, something selective, for broadleaf, but, maybe that's a way to go. Physically getting in there and cutting back, especially the poison ivy, and then applying a herbicide to open cuts in the plant might be more effective, than applying, a defoliant and, that type of herbicide. So I don't know if you just want to think through that process, that little piece there. But yeah, that's a unique area. It's a tough area to try to control plants, and there's a lot of shade there right now too, would make it, you're gonna have to pick species that are gonna be shade tolerant and still be able to withstand, the aggressive plantings that are already there, or the aggressive invasives that are already there. So,
Yeah. A lot of the shade is coming from the Norway that is in front of the existing building that's coming out.
oh, that's right. That's coming out.
Right. And then, I've done an awful lot of invasive protocol plans, and the woody stuff, if we can get to it, and the trick is it's best to keep anything sizable, to keep it fully standing,
Okay.
get in and do a low cut bark application so that you can actually observe its mortality, leave it in place,
Oh, okay.
and make sure it dies. Otherwise, you get root sprouts, stump
Mhm.
sprouts that you can't control, and it goes
Okay.
on forever. And typically, we try to do 2 treatments. Um, one that occurs around July and the other one occurs sometime in September with the triclopyr. And we do come back about 2 weeks later to make sure that everything seems dead. Sometimes it's very targeted application 2 weeks after a treatment. So at most it's like 4 rounds, but more than likely it's just 2 rounds for 2 years. And then in the third year, it's getting the new stuff that's growing in from seed stock or any roots that didn't fully die off. And we really can achieve pretty good success in a limited amount of time with that aquatic safe application. The knotweed, which isn't present along the bank, but is present kind of along that western property line.
By
That's
the lilacs there.
yeah, by the lilacs and back by the garage area near that
Yeah.
bend in the property line.
Yeah.
That is a far tougher thing to
Mm-hmm.
deal with. And the most recent approach that I've used in for Boston Parks and their urban wild it really worked really well. It's a blue foaming cleanser and a blue foaming surfactant that
Okay.
is not toxic like the other surfactants that you typically use. I can provide the data on it. I actually have an aquatic toxicologist who lives in Missouri who does work for me, and she did analysis for that Boston Parks project. And you use that you basically cut the knotweed, and as it regrows, you use that with the foaming surfactant. And it's a special applicator, and it's direct to the leaves. It doesn't hit non-target, and it's absorbed, and it actually is fairly effective. In less than 2 years, we knocked back some really heavy stands at the Roslindale Urban Wild in Boston, and it was highly successful. So I'm pretty confident that we can very carefully, as long as it's monitored and done by the right people, carefully use these aquatic safe herbicides in this area and increase the biodiversity of that bank. If we do it at the same time we take out the Norway, and then we can put in some fairly aggressive native plants that are appropriate to the area, and at that point let them fight for themselves. I think it's a little too much of a rat's nest to entirely go in and plant aggressive natives and hope they're going to do anything. And I think we don't really have to do a lot on the other area unless it's no longer mowed. And it looks like it's been mowed for, 80 years, but once it's stopped, this same stuff will try to come in. And we could very carefully pull this stuff as well using a weed wrench. We could get a lot of it out. I was erring on the side of herbicide use because it tends to mean less soil disturbance, and you can leave the roots in place to kind of hold the bank together. But I do think ecologically, I think it makes sense to try to do something there. We'd be willing to prioritize a mechanical approach or prioritize the very targeted direct application herbicide with oversight and proper credentialing.
Yeah, I just if you're leaning towards the herbicide approach, which it sounds like, I would just have a detailed plan for us for that, with the schedule, herbicide types, maybe, SDSs or whatever you can provide for information on those herbicides.
Yeah. And to the extent, I mean, if there's any way any remaining concerns, including this, are conditionable, we're under a pretty tight time frame with a closing deadline on the property that we had a lot of difficulty getting an extension on last time. And so I'm hoping that we can resolve any issues tonight.
Okay, Mick,
Thank
Mick,
you.
anything else?
No, thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, yep, thank you, Mick. Harry, any questions for Tom on this submittal?
I don't, Bob. Thanks.
Okay. Frank, any questions for Tom on this submittal?
No questions, just a comment. I agree with Mick on the use of the herbicides. I think if you cut them back, it might be more effective than just spraying. But I'm sure you guys know more about that than I do. I'm also happy to see that you were able to move the location to appease the butter, and it looks like a much better plan as it's drawn now. It's my only comment.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just clarify, in no way are we looking at a spray of herbicide. We're looking at direct application methods. Even the foaming cleanser is actually an applicator that is sprayed right up against the leaf.
Mhm.
It sort of foams out of the applicator rather than any kind of a broad spray. We try very hard not to have, so we don't have any non-target hits with the chemical.
So, Tom, you'd be able to provide the data sheet and a cut sheet on the method and the selection of herbicides that you're proposing.
Yeah, I can provide, I mean, I did provide in the narrative just a description of the methods, what I could do, and I think you've conditioned this before on other projects. I could provide an invasive species protocol that puts in writing everything I've described for review and approval by the commission so that it's not just Mason looking at it and it can come back and we can hash it out if you'd like. But this is something I've done an awful lot of with a great deal of success. The only times they've not been successful have been when the clients have not followed through on bringing in the right contractor. And
So what would be the specific wording of that, Tom, if we were to add it as a special condition?
provide a detailed invasive species
Control plan.
control plan
Yeah.
that provides detail on how non-target species are not going to be harmed, and provides the specifics on the chemical and their aquatic use safety or whatever the aquatic rating by EPA.
Okay, thank you. David, any questions? Mary, I'll swing back to you before we'll do another loop around. David, any questions for Tom on this application?
No questions, Bob, no.
Okay, thank you, David. I do not have any questions. I think both Mick and Mary's analysis and questions have been enlightening. Mary, I'm going to swing back to you. You've heard the different comments made and just wanted to see where you're at and what your comments and
I think that, Tom just convinced me that the invasive management plan on the bank there can be done sensitively with, it's going to require a lot of effort and oversight, but I think that, I'm willing to give that a shot.
okay.
Still retain my concerns about the dock.
Okay, and that is on the wood pilings versus helical.
And do we have a DMF comment on the dock yet?
No, they received the NOI over a month ago, and they don't always comment. And I checked with Mason today to see sometimes they send it to the agent only and not to the applicant, and nothing's been sent in.
And that was sent by email or by regular mail?
By email, that's the requirement, is that go by
Yeah,
email.
it is. Yep. I would like to certainly understand what if any they have comments on. Is that in priority habitat?
No. So there's a natural heritage component, and that is the floats. The endangered species line is actually out in the water.
Okay.
And so you can actually see this line here.
Yep.
So these are in habitat, and I think probably the reason that we don't have any comments from DMF is that we do show 18 inches above substrate with the near floats being up on what you call it, on legs basically, and then we've got full float here, and we're using helical anchoring for this, so it meets all the BMPs they
Do
typically.
we have comments from natural heritage on the floats in the priority
Yeah.
habitat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've signed off, no take, no special conditions, nothing.
Mary, anything else?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mason, do you have any comments?
I think the only thing that I would recommend is with dock projects, since I've been here, we've normally had the applicant submit a float storage plan, just identifying where the floats are going to be coming out, whether that's going to be floated on the river for storage or kept in an upland area on the site. But I think besides that, that would be my only recommendation.
Okay. Tom, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think we had mentioned this in the first hearing after we got the DEP file number, but maybe not.
Okay.
The floats would not be stored in the marsh. They'll be stored most likely off-site, but if they're stored on site, there's really one location where they could probably go, and that would be up in the floodplain only portion, because I suppose maybe we can get them up in here, but there's this storage area here that we may be able to fit them in, or we may be able to fit them here, but more, I would say that the current plan is that they'll be stored off-site. Whoever does the installation would be doing that. And I would imagine they're going to be put in and removed through the town's boat ramp.
Okay, anything else, Mason?
No, I think that's it. To Mary's point about the helical piles and the wood piles, I know we had permitted the one on 7 Marsh Ave with the helical piles. But I actually got a call from Ed Boyle, who's doing the pile driving over there, and he kind of explained a little bit the difficulties that helical piles can bring with stability, and he argued the point that as you put in helical piles, if they're moving over time with ice or whatnot, the maintenance required to kind of reset those in would be more impact than a single use wood pile. And I haven't really had the experience of viewing long-term projects with both of those, but just to give the board some perspective on someone who does pile driving in town and kind of their thoughts on the matter. So
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other members have any further questions before I open this up to the public?
None for me, Bob. Thank you.
Okay. Mason, are there any raised hands from the public at this time? And if there are, please just give us your name. John, just give us your name and address, and then I'm assuming you're directing your question to Tom.
Yeah. In fact, Tom and I have been talking quite a bit lately. John Killam, 52 Cottage Road here in Newbury, directly next door. And actually, the property that's just behind the garage that Tom was just recently talking about. First off, we certainly do appreciate moving the property and making a little bit more room. That's certainly very, very helpful. Giving us a little bit more space, that's appreciated. The plans that I've got in front of me right now, I think are the latest ones that we've got from Tom, and those were based on updates from 5/28, just a few days ago. We see that and I know it may be outside of the scope of your environmental concerns, and I'm almost positive it is, but the garage size that we see there, which is bigger than the present dwelling there right now, what we see there with the 10-foot spacing there is something from our perspective, we're okay with that. But we have not, I understand that there's going to be yet another modification to that, this latest set of plans. And we're going to be getting a copy of that sometime soon by Tom.
John, what is the date of the plan that you're looking at, just so that we can make sure we're all looking at the same?
The date in the bottom right corner is April 21st, 2026, but it was updated. There's an update section there that says 5/28/26.
Okay. And Tom, is that the plan we've been looking at?
Yeah, it is. He's
Okay.
looking at the same plan.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
so it would seem, John, if we approve the plan that is before us, and there is a change to the plan, it would have to come back as an amendment, and that would be re-notification, public hearing, and we'd be able to address it, as would you, if there was a change.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, John?
I had one question.
yeah.
I'm Kathy,
yeah.
John's wife.
Yep.
So this in regards to the landscape, by that proposed garage or the garage, there's a tree in the landscape. And I think that is is that the same tree that's there now?
Yeah, Tom, that's to the right of the garage. That tree that's there. It's kind of
It's near the
over.
road.
It's overarching our garage as well, which we
Yeah,
with
so
moss
that's
all over the garage.
yeah, and the reason you've got the moss is it's a Norway maple, so the
Yeah.
canopy is so dense that it's inhibiting the growth of other plants. The knotweed loves it under there, but so that is coming out. That's shown as being removed, and then it is being replaced with a PC, which is a Swiss stone pine.
Okay. That's
So
fine.
that'll be just an evergreen going in there.
Nice.
And that's shown as 8 to 10 foot in height.
Any other questions? John, are you guys all set? Do you have any other questions? At this
Yeah.
time?
I think what was that?
We're all set, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're all set.
okay,
Yeah, thank
okay.
you.
Great.
Appreciate everything that was done.
Thank you.
Okay, Mason, are there any other raised hands from the public at this time? If anyone would like to speak, just give us your name and address. If you have a comment or
Not seeing
question.
any.
Okay. All right, one further go around with the board. Mary, anything else that you want to add? I mean, I think Mason, incorporating a float storage plan, the invasive species control plan certainly makes good sense to me.
Yeah, I don't have anything further.
Okay. Do any members have a request for a site visit or additional information, plan amendment, or the additional content to this notice of intent?
I would very much like to have the Division of Marine Fisheries comments as part of the record for this.
Okay. Is there a time frame, Mary, that they have to respond? Is it a 30-day time
I
frame,
think
or
it
is
is.
it?
It may be 30 days, yeah.
Okay. And as I recall, those are not conditional, but they're recommendations.
Right, but yes.
Yeah, but it's invaluable to have.
Mr. Chairman, the difference between marine fisheries is we're required to notify them, but they're not required to comment. They often do, but they don't always. Natural heritage, we're required to get the
Yeah, no, certainly.
comments. They have a
we're-
30-day. When you're past 30 days, then you're free to issue a decision. But marine fisheries, we just have to send it, and we've sent it, and so we can't really do any more on that. And
What was the date? What was the date that you sent it, Tom?
hold on, I'll get into my email and I want to say it was like April 10th, but that's just off the top of my head.
So middle of April is what you're.
I think. Let me just be sure. April 28th. So
Okay, so it's just hitting 30 days at this point.
yeah, I mean it's 35 days, but I'll forward this right now to the agent so he's got the record. I think I did, but just in case.
Okay, so Mary, are you asking?
Yeah,
You want to
I
wait
just
for
continue
that
to have
document?
concerns about the dock and removal of these piles and this installation of new piles and how that can be accomplished within the regs. There's no wiggle room for alteration of salt marsh except for installation of piles. So I just am not fully convinced yet that the dock is going to get my vote. Put it that way. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so the dock issue and then the type of.
I think there's a way to
support.
do it. I think
Yeah.
ultimately is probably a way to do it. I'm not convinced that it's as currently proposed is the least impact way to do it.
So would we consider a submittal prior to construction that could be reviewed by the agent or the commission as a condition to make sure whether it's helical or it's wood? And I'm just kind of throwing
Yeah.
that out there as a codicil to this particular.
No, I mean, I think, time is sensitive for these
Yeah.
people and, if there's a way to separate the two projects and just approve the house, I'd be comfortable with that. And I'm just one member, so you.
Yeah, well,
certainly
Mary,
dressing up.
your guidance and counsel carries great weight with the commission.
It's sometimes a burden. So,
Well, you fully understand all of
yeah,
this,
no, I do.
that
Yeah.
our
So
eyes
those are
cross
that's my
after.
thoughts. I mean, it's easier to build the thing without, with brand new construction and not having to take out the piles. Maybe if there's that's probably my biggest concern is you take out these piles, all the suction that creates, and we don't know how deep they are and how much material would be needed to backfill into these holes and then would there need to be replanting of these holes that are, as a result. I just think it's cleaner and easier to leave them in place and
So
build around them.
if you
I guess that's when it comes down to it. My biggest concern is removal of the piles and
so
taking.
if he cut those at the surface and put new wood piles in, would
Yeah,
would
that would be better. I mean, I think that we're being very inconsistent in requiring helicals in one location and not in another. That doesn't seem very fair. I don't know. I've seen helicals be used lots of times in very high energy locations on the Merrimack, upstream in the Merrimack, and I haven't had a problem with them. And they've been in there for quite a number of years.
Yeah, if I may, we're certainly happy to just cut them and not remove them. We were trying to keep the salt marsh impact neutral, and there are cases where DEP has allowed salt marsh to essentially be relocated and not call it an impact. So that was what we were hoping to do is essentially relocate as we relocate the piles in slightly different spots and transplant over.
Yeah, it assumes a really
so-
clean, removal of these piles, which may not be the case at all.
so
Yeah, I mean, we could do a couple different things. One is we could give a very gentle pull, and if they don't come, we just cut them blush and try to get them as low down as we can, and so the salt marsh has a chance of growing over it.
Tom, I think what if you're trying to get final action tonight, I would suggest that you follow surface cut the piles you're not going to use, and the ones you put in are going to be helical piles. And I think you have a pathway forward tonight.
Okay.
Mary,
can I just-
would you agree with that?
I'd be very happy with that.
Okay.
Okay. If we are going to reuse a location, so that if we could pull a pile and put a new pile in the same hole, would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we can agree to that. I just don't want to have to squeeze a pile in right next to an old pile if we can
But you
reuse
may
it.
need
Yeah, I understand that.
spacing, but spacing, you should be able to manage the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. So we'd be fine with that. And
Let
then
me just
you know,
hang on 1 second, Tom. Mick, do you have something you want to add to this, or am I misreading your body language?
I thought he waved.
No.
I thought he.
Okay.
No. I'm kind of on the fence. I see the benefits of what Tom's proposing as using the original hole, the new holes as plugs, almost like a sod plug, basically to replace. But I also see the benefit of helical pile. So I'm 50-50 on it, and I think just a general consensus of the commission to agree, and if that's
So I mean,
helicals and
Basically, there'll be
Okay.
no new wood piles unless it's like kind in the same hole.
I
And
have
go ahead, Woody.
I have a quick question about the wood versus helical. In reference to what Mason spoke to earlier about Ed Boyle saying that he'd like to use wood on the other side, and I just don't know how that's addressed, Mason. And I respect Ed Boyle's opinions. He lives on the river. He's 3 doors down from this place. So.
But I think we're looking at the impact to the resource, not the long-term maintenance of the actual construction component.
So it's better to put the helical, Mary, if you would too, please chime in. It's better to replace the helical or maintain the helical than it is to put the wood in.
I haven't seen an example of the helicals needing to be replaced. So, I mean, this is somebody who's, the business is pile driving. So that's what he knows, and that's how he.
He actually does both, though.
Does he do both?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So, I'm worried. I want to be consistent in our decision making here in this, and I also think that there is a significant difference in impact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frank, Frank has his hand up. Frank, what's your question?
Mary, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
I don't clearly understand when you say the impact on the marsh by pulling the existing piles out. What is your concern? What exactly is the concern?
So when you say that the piles are 4 feet, in the ground, and they come out, now you've got a hole, and you can't put peat in there. Peat is decomposed, that's not the substrate. So you're going to have to fill it with a non-native material to get it back up to the grade that it's needed to grow salt marsh grasses. You have to have a planting plan to plant over it. And you got to hope it grows. And it's very difficult to get salt marsh to grow. It grows very slowly. And so we know what elevation it would need to be and everything. And then, if it might settle, it might still have a little hole there depending on the material. So it's just a whole nother step in the process. And the result is that you have more vegetation loss and potentially loss of the native peat that's in there, and being kept in place by these piles as they eventually decompose. That becomes part of the organic layer. But I just
Feel like
you,
if they
you often see these piles removed sometimes, and there is just a big hole. And then once the hole develops, it tends to expand into this marsh. It holds water and expands, and it kills the vegetation around it because it's always wet in between tides. So it keeps the root zone saturated in between tides. So there's lots of different ways where it could go wrong.
Yeah. So just to do a recap, if they removed a pile like kind and then relocate it or replaced a pile because of its structural integrity in the exact same location, we're okay with that. It's removing the pile, and abandoned piles could be cut.
I guess in theory, the likelihood that you're going to have a hole that is going to be suitable for another pile of a different size that is going to be at the same depth it's not likely.
They're going to probably drive them into.
And you're not going to do one wooden pile and a bunch of helicals, right?
Right.
So you're going to do one or the other.
Mr. Chairman, we would still prefer to go forward with installing wooden piles, but it's really the ice. It's not so much the velocity. It's the ice that builds up in this area, and the helicals would need significant bracing in a way that I think is more adverse to the salt marsh long term. So and then it's the ongoing maintenance of a helical install and possibly having to replace it if there's ice damage that has us wanting to do the wood. But we're certainly okay. Well, I understand Mary's concern. I was thinking of it differently. I guess as a geologist, I think, okay, it's not that hard to replicate the substrate. It's a matter of getting it so it doesn't settle and choosing the right material. There might even be material we uncover on site as we're excavating for the foundation that's suitable, and then filling the hole up and not planting it, but literally transplanting the sod of the salt marsh with its peat and with whatever we could get out of the new pile hole over, and doing salt marsh restoration that way. And to me, you either have a scar of the old wood pile or you have the scar, temporary scar of a plug. But we can do it either way, whatever the commission's preference is. We would still like to install the wooden piles. And if the commission wanted to punt the issue of cut or no cut, you could do a condition that required us to provide a more detailed plan of how we would restore the holes, or in the absence of that, would be required to cut them flush. And that would give us time to talk about this issue a little bit more, but know that we've got approval for the dock. If the
Yeah, I mean, Tom, I
commission-
think that any of the piles you're not gonna reuse, you're gonna have to cut flush
Okay.
and not remove. And Mary, are you okay with the installation of new piles if we're not removing any of the old piles? Because I agree with you, Mary, that it's the impact to the resource that we're worried about, not the ongoing maintenance, although it's
Yeah.
nice when you can address both, but.
Yeah, I guess, my vote is cut the piles flush and use helical piles. And if, and issue an order, and if they want to request an amendment down the road with more information, we can consider that. But
Okay,
I think that's my
Alright.
opinion.
so Tom, I think if you want final action tonight, Woody, do you have your hand up for?
Yeah, yeah, I only have one other thing to say is if they wanted to go with wood, why can't they pull the old ones and put the new wood ones in the same holes and call it a day? Because that's what saws are for. They can use what they have there now and fill in from pile to pile. I saw them on site. They're laid out. There might be some differences in footage, but they just put wood piles in the old holes because they want new wood piles and worked around it that way. That way there's no plugs, there's no fill, there's no any of that.
I mean, I
Use
think the
old
point
holes.
is that if there's a pile and it's not going to be used, Woody, rather than pull it and have it filled in and deal with that and the planting, just cutting it flush to the grade and leaving it in place, that seems to be.
Mhm.
And Mr.
So-
Chairman, I mean, we could accept the condition that we have to cut them flush and that we use helicals unless we provide additional information to the commission as to why helicals cannot work, in which case then we could use the wood with the commission's review and approval of that. If there was some type of condition that basically said,
Well, I think
Yeah,
we're
and-
gonna approve something tonight and you can come back and amend it. But it's not gonna be a condition that's conditional upon something else, so it's.
okay,
So,
I-
so what if you said a combination of what Woody said, reuse the pile locations, reuse the same pile locations or use helicals and give them the option?
yeah, so if you said all new installation locations shall be helical.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Mason, I hope you're taking copious notes on this. Okay, are there any other questions from anyone? Okay, I think we've resolved that. All right. Obviously, we don't want a site visit. No one's requesting any additional information. Thoughts on considering closing the meeting? Does anyone have any objection to closing the public hearing, not the meeting?
So moved.
Okay. I'll
Second.
entertain a motion to
Oh,
close the
sorry.
public hearing, and Mary, you'll move it, and Woody, you're
Second.
seconding it? Okay. Roll call, all in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Woody,
Yes,
Mick,
All right.
Harry,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and Bob Connors. Okay, so special conditions. just looking at my notes, and Mason and Mary chime in, or anyone else. The applicant is going to submit a float storage plan. It's going to provide an invasive species control plan. With regards to the pilings, they will either be reused as wood, or all new piles will be helicals.
Reused in the same locations as it.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Mhm.
And any any existing piles not used to be cut flush.
Cut
Mhm.
flush, yeah. Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion, to issue an order of conditions for 54 Cottage Road, subject to the special conditions that were just discussed.
Can I add another condition,
Yeah,
Bob?
you sure can.
Monitor of the invasive species, all of the mitigation that's proposed is this, 2 years of monitoring of the
Okay.
success. That's pretty standard 2 growing season monitoring of mitigation areas.
Okay, Tom, if you could include that in the invasive species control plan monitoring,
Yeah.
that would that work, Mary?
Mhm.
Okay,
So moved.
okay. All right, roll call, all in favor, Mary,
Yes.
Woody,
Yes.
Mick,
What?
Harry,
Yes.
Frank. Frank, you're on mute if you're,
I don't know if we lost him.
no, I see him, Frank, you're on mute if you're, although his
Oh, he
internet
stepped
sometimes
aside.
is frozen. Okay, David?
Yes.
And Bob Connors votes yes. Frank? Okay, well, we have a quorum. All right, thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, next matter, DEP file number 0501460, 45 Boston Road. Applicant is submitting a notice of intent to expand existing boardwalk systems within the proximity to bordering vegetated wetlands. Mason, where are we at on this one? You're on mute, Mason.
There we go. The Ned had completed the delineation over at 45 Boston, which I've taken a look at. Everything looked good over there. He's still getting some additional information over to us, so he's going to be requesting a continuance tonight until our next meeting.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to our July 7th meeting at the request of the applicant.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Mary?
I have to abstain in this one.
Okay, Woody?
Yes.
Mick?
Aye.
Harry?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And Bob Connors votes yes. All right, next matter is a continued public hearing. DEP file number 0501455, Old Newbury Golf Club. Applicant is submitting an NOI for golf course maintenance work, including tee box relocation and tree removal within the buffer zone. Mason, can you give us an update on this and a recommendation if you?
Yep.
Sure.
So the board and I, or some of the members of the board and I, did a site walk a couple of weeks ago, and we had talked with Sam, the applicant's representative for this project, and we had suggested updating the wetland line as we saw some areas where we thought it needed to be fixed. So they fixed that, and Sam will be able to show you those areas. But there was an area that kind of bumped out a little bit more than expected on the third tee box, and then I believe it was the fourth tee box and fourth hole where we also wanted the delineation reviewed again. So they've updated flags in those areas, and I believe they have some slight changes to what they're proposing for the work next to hole 2, I believe. So they've updated everything. I've been able to go out and review the updated delineation. I didn't see any issues with that. And at that, I would leave it to Sam to go over some of the changes that they had made on the plans.
All right, Sam, if you just give us your name and position on this project.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Sam Colombo speaking. I am the engineer representing the applicant tonight. So I'll just quickly go through, if I can share my screen here, go through some of the areas Mason alluded to already.
Should be good to share now.
Perfect. All right, are we all able to see screen?
Yes.
Beautiful. So the first location Mason alluded to is actually just behind the third green. If you can see where my cursor is now, the dashed line would be the new delineation, and there are new flags. It's a bit tough to see, but with the bright green text, those would be the new flags, the area that sort of bumps out. The light gray line was the previous delineation. So you can see there's a little bit of a change there. The second area was just off of the fifth tee box, just to the north of the page here. Again, the dashed line is the new delineation. This area didn't change a whole lot. I think the flags moved between 5 and 7 feet. Again, depicted with those bright green wetland flag labels. And the last area was just to the south of that, on the fifth fairway, another 3 wet flag locations. Again, just minor adjustments to that. And then just another thing to remember, I know it's been a while since we've been back in front of the commission. There are some locations, obviously, where we're proposing to cut some trees close to the wetlands. We're not proposing to actually remove any of the stumps. What they would do is grind them down just below grade so they can get material over the top of them if they're close to the playable area on the golf course, or if they're really close to the wetland. I'm recommending that they just leave the stumps in place altogether to prevent any sort of disturbance up close to the wetland. The final and last change that we made to the proposal, Mason had mentioned on the second tee box. Now, the original proposal had us removing the smaller rear tee box, excavating it out and moving it up and combining it with the smaller tee box up front. The golf course would actually like to prevent any sort of excavation up next to the wetland, and instead just fill the small area in between those 2 tee boxes to create a larger tee box. It's covered up here, but I believe it's about 275 square feet of area, and it would only be filled about a foot to a foot and a half. It's not an elevated tee box really at all. Yeah, those are really the only changes we have. I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have, and hopefully get this over the finish line. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions from the members. Thank you, Sam. Mary, questions for Sam on this application?
Yeah, Sam, can you just flip back to the beginning?
Yeah,
Of the plan set? Thanks.
sure.
So, I guess one of the things we talked about in the field was, and thanks for making the delineation changes. That looks about right, what I pictured. And I think the original delineation was done by just GIS overlay. So this is much more accurate and will be useful for the course in the future of knowing where their wetlands are on their property. But the trees that are within 50 feet of the wetland, we talked about having some more criteria for when those would be allowed. And like, for example, if they were non-native species, or if they were a potential hazard to players, other than it being a hazard, like to improve your game. I mean, a falling hazard. And I don't know that all of those were. And so I thought that we had discussed kind of giving a little bit more information about the trees that were within the 50-foot buffer zone. So there's it looks like there's just 3 of them here on this third tee, and one, that one where your cursor is over there. They seem to be pretty far away from play areas. And maybe it's just the shading issue on that one near flag A4. But some of them are very close to the wetland boundary, and they're some of them are native trees. They're mostly red maple, if I recall. So I guess to summarize, I'd be in favor of this project and all the changes to the tee boxes that were proposed. They all look reasonable to me. But limiting the tree clearing in the 50-foot buffer zone without, further explanation of why they're needed, other than, playability issues.
Sure, understood, Mary. I should have mentioned there was a part of the project narrative that I did my best to sort of explain what you had just spoke about. Although we didn't exactly flag each tree, whether or not it's disease or it's for playability reasons that it was being removed. However, I did go through the plans with Martin, the course superintendent, and he had come up with about 75% of the trees proposed he thinks need to come down due to disease or infestation, with some of them appearing close to falling on their own. The remaining 25% would be removed to improve playability, as well as help manage the overall turf health for the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
So I get what you're saying.
He's
I
not
guess
an he's not an arborist though, Sam, is he?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So maybe it's just a matter of flagging those in the buffer zone and in the 50-foot zone and getting more information and leaving some discretion to Mason or something to decide whether or not those would come down.
So something like flag the trees prior to removal, site visit with the agent, and if there was some backup on the health of the tree, that might be justification.
Oh yeah, keep the ones in the 50-foot unless there's documentation that it's an unhealthy tree or at risk.
Yeah, as a golfer, Mary, what happens is as the trees grow and the canopy expands, it blocks all the sunlight, and then you have a turf failure. And
yeah,
and plus, as 16 handicap golfers hate trees to begin with, so. But
I was going to say sometimes they help.
only when they bounce.
They ricochet off the
tree. You get a member's bounce.
You'll be a hockey player. You're gonna play the boards, Bob.
Yeah.
Boards.
Mary, do you have any other questions?
No,
I'll
thank
circle
you.
back if you do.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Woody, your comments for Sam?
Just a quick clarification on the trees. How many are there on total to be slated to be removed?
We're down to 55.
Okay.
I believe the original proposal had about 70.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions, Bob.
Okay, thank you. Mick, our favorite registered arborist of
right.
Newbury Conservation.
Yeah, I was going to ask how many trees. This just, you had mentioned stump grinding, and Mary, feel free to chime in here. Think if you're going to do stump grinding within the wetland resource area inside the buffer zone, and you're going to go below grade, then you're going to have to you're going to have to do a replacement, right? Because collectively, all the stumps that you probably are going to grind out when you add up that square footage, you're probably going to be within, you're going to probably be over the limit where you have to do some type of wetland restoration. That's why you may want to consider just cutting them flush as opposed to grinding and having to replant in a wetland area. So just a thought there, and I'm welcome, comments from others on the commission regarding that. And I think
you know what, you bring up a good point, Mick. Sam, what is the vegetation around the trees being proposed to be stump ground? Is it grass now? Is it fairway or rough?
So it's mixed.
Okay.
The further you get out to the 100-foot buffer, it becomes rough and fairway area.
Mhm.
Obviously, as you get closer to the wetland, it's a lot more brush vegetation and whatnot.
of the 55 trees, I apologize, I wasn't available for the site visit. Of the 55 trees being proposed for cutting, how many are within the 100-foot buffer and how many are within the 50-foot buffer? Is there a breakout like that?
Yeah, so between the 0 to 50-foot buffer, there's 18 trees, and between the 50 to 100-foot buffer, there's 26 trees, and then an additional 11 that are outside the buffer zone altogether.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Harry, question.
Just-
Mick?
Yeah,
Mary, go ahead,
I just
Mary.
want to clarify what Sam just said. Are there any in the wetland itself?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I'm going to go through this again, Mary, so everyone's going to have a chance to talk. Harry, what are your thoughts on this?
No comments, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Frank, what are your comments?
I have no comments, Bob. Thank you.
David, what are your comments?
I don't have any comments, just an observation. I did the site walk with some of the other conservation members, and didn't seem like 75% were dying. There were definitely some that were on their way out, but it didn't seem like it was that high a percentage.
Yeah. Okay. So Sam, the way I see this, the 26 trees that are in the 50 to 100-foot buffer, hate to lose a tree, but it doesn't, I shouldn't say it doesn't bother me. It's not as concerning. The 11 trees outside the buffer completely, certainly we don't even have jurisdiction. The 18 trees that are in the 0 to 50, I think we'd have to be marked, and then there would have to be some supporting documentation that there is some sort of the survivability, whether it's a life safety thing because they're dead or they're dying. And so I think you can get yourself, I mean, from my perspective, and certainly I'm just one vote, but I think the 18 trees within the 0 to 50 buffer, it's not a go. It's going to be do a submittal, mark them, Mason inspects them, and you've got a registered arborist that's saying, yeah, there's a reason for removing them.
Understood. Is there any way that could be a condition?
Yeah, no, I think we can condition it.
Okay.
Okay, and so let me circle back, Mary. You just heard what I said. What are your thoughts on that?
That sounds great. And I would just add, whether or not you want to allow stump grinding in the 0 to 50 or not. I think if it's in an area where there's turf anyway, or you're supposed to be turf, it's pretty easy to just reseed it. But if it's in an area that's wooded, maybe just cut,
Flush
the
cut
stump.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think, in the special condition, Mary, on those 18 particular trees, we could add some verbiage there that the agent, in conjunction to his site visit, would be able to make a determination or bring it back to us if it was.
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds fine.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the members at this time?
Nope.
Are there any raised hands from the public, Mason, at this time?
Seeing none.
Okay. Do any members have a request for additional site visit, additional information, plan amendment, or any additional content?
I'd just throw out there, Bob, I'd be happy to join Mason to
Okay, yeah,
review any marked trees, just to lend my limited expertise in the tree world.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think that would be great. Okay, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call. All in favor? Mary,
Yes.
Woody,
yes.
Mick,
Aye.
Harry,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. So team, it seems like the only issue we have would be the 18 trees within the 50-foot buffer. And Mary, what would you suggest for some verbiage for a special condition?
Any trees within 50 feet of a identified wetland resource area, not be removed until the agent has an opportunity to inspect and determine whether or not they meet criteria for removal based on disease or safety hazard.
Okay.
With that, didn't you say, Bob, that the justification for removal would have to be, detailed by a certified arborist?
Well, I mean, it,
Provide some
Probably
justification.
just
yeah, I mean,
observation.
if there's no leaves on the tree and it's the middle of July, we probably
Yeah.
can make that determination. But
Right.
if it's a healthy green tree, I think that it
Yeah.
we need some justification to just, enter into the 50-foot buffer.
Right. That's from the 0 to 50
Yep.
zone. Okay.
And it,
Yep.
okay.
And then further that trees to be removed in the 50-foot buffer. If they're to be ground, area needs to be reseeded, otherwise cut flush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, flush cut unless it's in a turfed area.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Sam, you okay with that? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that works for us.
Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion to issue order of conditions for Old Newbury Golf Club with that special condition on the 0 to 50 buffer regarding trees. They'll be flagged. There'll be a pre-removal meeting with the agent, and trees that are dangerous, threat to safety or diseased will be flagged. And if they're cut, it'll be flush cut unless it's surrounded by turf.
So moved.
Okay.
Second,
Roll call. All in favor? Mary?
Yes.
Woody?
yes.
Mick?
All right.
Harry?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Bob Connors. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Let's see. What do we get left here? DEP file number 0501462-177 Middle Road. The applicant is submitting a notice of intent to construct a new single-family home and associated work within the buffer zone. Mason, can you give us an overview and a status on this one?
Yep, so some of the board members did a site walk here with Bill Holt. He had the house and garage staked out, I believe. He also had the septic system staked out. There's an existing gravel driveway there, so we were able to walk the whole property and look at all the project elements. And I think some of the only comments that were had on the site walk were to reduce some of the grading within the 0 to 50-foot buffer if it wasn't absolutely necessary. So I believe Bill had made some changes to the plan, identifying those areas where the grading was reduced. So I will leave it at that, and he can kind of go through those areas and the small changes that he made on the plan.
Okay, Bill, give us your name and your association and make your presentation.
William Holt, representing the owner, Chris Clifford. The applicant, Chris Clifford, sorry. And I do have a revised plan. I'd like to be able to share that if I can.
Yep, certainly.
You see that?
We can.
All right. I'm going to show you the areas. I'm going to use the 20 scale because it's a little easier. See it. I'll zoom in on the areas that when we walked the property, Mary had asked us to pull the grading back up to the 50-foot buffer line. So zoom in a little more. See it a little easier. So this here is the red line is the 50-foot Title 5 setback, 50-foot setback to the wetlands. And we pulled the 36 elevation, post 36, 34, 32, all back up to that line, 30-foot elevation above it. And then down here, because of the septic, we were unable to bring it all the way back. I have the septic pipe going down through here, and the grade, it's like a little valley in here, little low spot. And you have to hit a certain grade to keep the percentage of the pipe go down to the septic. And these grades are to keep that grade and then slope it down at a 4-to-1. So I have 4-to-1 going down, and then we have the 28 and the 26 where it ends right here. We pulled all the hay bales back to that line, as that would be the limit of work. Would be the hay bale line. So that's where we did the modification. I also did modify up here slightly, hold the grading back in this area and push the hay bales back. I don't think Mary mentioned that area, but I saw that it was way in, and I pulled it back as far as we could. So we brought it up close, but not quite fully out of the buffer zone, out of the 50-foot. And that's the 3 spots that we modified it. If you have any questions, or if Mary has any comments, or any other members, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, questions from the members. Mary, questions for Bill Holt on this application?
Bill, do you have utilities coming in on the driveway?
Yes, we have. Oops, sorry. Let me go back to the other one. It doesn't quite show it. Other scale, the 40 scale will. We have a telephone pole across the street.
Yep.
I'm proposing 1 telephone pole. Zoom in a little bit more so I can tell you. Show you. So we're going to go overhead.
Overhead line, and then
Yeah, overhead line up
utilities
to
in
a
the road?
telephone pole at this location, which is
Okay.
slightly under 50-foot.
Yep.
And then underground from there to the house.
Mhm. Okay.
And that's about the maximum length we can go with a pole. We'd have to have a second pole if we wanted to go overhead and further up.
Okay. And what about gas or
Nope,
anything
you're
else
gonna use
looking?
propane gas tanks, and that will be up by the house, or
Okay.
oil. And then we have obviously a proposed well, so the well is located outside the buffer zone.
Okay, so no excavation needed in the driveway. The most sensitive area on the site is the entrance where the driveway is has wetland on both sides.
Yes, correct. That's
So
and that's
it's
kind of
gonna be-
existing, so we're not really doing a whole lot of grading there.
Right, it's very low, and so, we'll have that width, which I think you've got shown as 12 or 13 feet.
Yeah,
will
it
have
needs
to be
12, yeah.
maintained. There's a stone wall on one side that sort of, the wetland goes actually on the other side of the stone wall,
Yeah.
right up to the edge of the wetland, at the
Yeah.
edge of the driveway. So there's that's a little pinch point there, but the rest of the project is well out, out of the 50-foot and is pretty standard construction. So we've got erosion controls that should serve as limit of work line so that there isn't any tree clearing beyond that limit of work, which we should specify in order of conditions. And I can't think. I'm done thinking.
Been a long night, Mary.
I
Been
know.
a long night.
Feeling like I'm fading, but I guess there's likely to be additional material brought in for the driveway surface between those 2 wetlands on either side, and they'll just have to, be sensitive about maintaining that width so that it doesn't grow into that wetland. Because there's going to be a tendency to want to expand it out towards the stone wall there.
Yeah, I discussed that with the applicant when we were out there after you guys had left. I said we can't expand the width of the gravel driveway beyond 12 feet.
Yeah.
So whatever we do, we have to make sure we can grade it without going past that.
Yeah, you would have to come back to us for that, for an amendment and some replication in order to do that. If it looks like it's going to be needed when you get to that point. But right now you're proposing to stay entirely outside of the wetland, so hopefully that can be maintained.
Okay, Mary, anything else?
No, thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Woody, any questions for Bill on this one?
Just a clarification. So they're just gonna top coat and leave it 12 feet wide. top coat of gravel only.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Well, the DPW may ask for the apron. I think it's like 10 or 12 feet off the pavement to be paved. That's for plowing transition. They don't want to have gravel plowed out into the roadway. So the first 12 feet may be 10 or 12 feet right in this area may be paved at the request of the DPW. I know they typically want an apron paved so that you don't have plowing up for the street. Having gravel going up into the street. So I didn't show
understand.
that, but if you want me to show it, I can add it to the plan before.
Yeah, I would add it if it's going to go in, Bill, if you show it. I think it
Okay.
will answer questions down the road if someone raises it.
I can revise that and provide that copy to the agent.
Yeah, okay. Woody, anything else?
Nope. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Mick, any questions for Bill Holt?
No, I have none. Thank you.
Okay, Harry, any questions for Bill Holt?
Not at this time, Bob.
Thank you, Harry. Frank, any questions for Bill Holt?
No, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And David, any questions for Bill Holt?
No, Bob, no questions.
I do not have any questions. Mason, are there any raised hands from the public at this time? I see Kathy. Kathy, if you could just give us your name and address and you're on mute. Kathy, you're on mute. Okay. Kathy, if you can hear us, there you are. Just give us your name and address, Kathy, and then ask you direct your question to Bill or whatever member you want to. You're back off mute now. You're back on mute, Kathy. Okay. Give us your name and what's your question?
Yes, I'm Kathy Atkinson. I'm an abutter to 177. I just want to understand a
Kathy,
little bit
just
better.
if you could just give us your actual address too, Kathy, just for the record.
Yes, 175 Middle Road.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to understand the clarification of a gravel road at this point.
Okay,
From Middle Road into the proposed site for construction.
okay. I mean, I think it's a gravel driveway, but Bill, do you want to answer that question?
It's a gravel driveway, exactly. It is a on the old plan
Park
of record.
Road.
On the old plan of record, it's calling it I think a right of way, access way. I don't think I have it
Okay.
on. I just kind
But
of knew that same language, but it is going to be only a driveway to this house. It does go all the way through. Goes all the way
Okay,
through
but
out to the. Is your property here? When you're in front. Right?
yes, it
Yeah.
abuts on the other side of the road. Just for clarification, there is a culvert that goes underneath that road also, which is part of the town drainage system that does go underneath the gravel road as stated. I'm just wondering, it doesn't seem to me like the grading for that road would be conducive to large construction vehicles coming in and out of there. And I'm just a little bit concerned about, how that will be addressed.
Yeah, I think what the applicant wants to do is actually take it down about 6 inches and add gravel, a 12-inch gravel base, so 6 inches down and then 6 inches above. So there'll be we'll be taken down 6 inches and then 12 inches will be brought back in. So we'll go up about 6 inches. That will be the 12-inch gravel base, which is what typical roadways have for that purpose. For structural.
Okay, and then to
Is-
have
is your concern the width of a piece of equipment going in exceeding the 12 feet? Or is it
Wait.
The weight
construction.
and the piece of equipment, yes.
Yeah, I
Most
know
of-
that.
Most
sorry.
equipment is less than 8 feet wide because it has to be transported over the road, and it just can't be any wider than that. Now that doesn't mean
Okay.
okay, so you're not gonna have some 15-foot wide piece of equipment that would be going for a residential structure like this.
Right.
Okay. Well, definitely the weight would be a concern just because, well, whatever. It's just the weight of the piece of equipment and just what it could do to the culvert.
To the culvert. Bill, where is the culvert that Kathy is referencing?
I'll be honest with you. Let me go to the other drawing. Sorry.
Is this at like the swale at the start of the driveway by the edge of the road, or?
Yes, close to, probably
Right in this
about
area.
30 feet in. I mean, we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have any objections to the projected project. I'm just concerned about what might happen with the weight of the vehicles or whatever else as a concern for the drainage in our front yard, which, as you did a site visit, does have a lot of, wetland right there.
So Kathy, I think the one thing, when this work is completed, they have to come back to the commission to seek a certificate of compliance.
Mhm.
And if there was any issue with that, it could be addressed at that point.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be my thought on it, but Bill, do you want to respond to that as well, or?
Yeah, I think we'll take a look at it when when he does the work of how the applicant and his contract, we'll take a look at the culvert, probably clean it out and see how much cover we have over it. If it needed to be replaced, I would we can contact the agent to discuss an option if we have to come back into.
They could put you know what, Bill, they could just put a steel plate over it too,
It's possible,
if
yeah.
there was a concern,
That's true.
might be the easiest way to do that, but. Kathy, anything else?
No, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. All right, are there any other raised hands from the public at this point, Mason? Okay, do any members have a request for an additional site visit, information, plan amendment?
Yeah, I have one thing, Bob.
Yeah, certainly, Mary.
So it's a little bit confusing and Kathy raised a good point about that existing road. It's hard to tell from the plan where the improvements to that road end, because you're showing it all the way, to the other side
Yeah,
of the property.
I think the client wants to end it at his driveway. It'll continue on in its existing condition past I'm sorry, let me call that
Okay.
plan back up again.
Can we get a plan note change or something to say the limits of the improvement to the road, or?
Yeah, we can certainly, I can make that indication. It's
Oh,
gonna be
some of it is
right-
outside of the buffer zone and not our concern, but some of it is, and so.
Yeah, I don't think he plans on doing any improvement past his garage. He's gonna
Okay,
come to
well,
his garage.
Guess we could make that a special condition, so.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, I'm gonna entertain a motion to close the public hearing unless we have something further to discuss.
So moved?
Do we
Second,
have a second? Okay, roll call, all in favor, Mary,
Yes,
Woody,
yes.
Mick,
All right.
Harry,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, so special conditions. So Mary, it seems like that you just want to add that one little footnote to the plan on the limitations of work on the driveway.
yes. And maybe just have it a special condition as well, just so that states that the improvements to the existing gravel road go only to the proposed turnaround at the garage, and that the driveway remain paved with the exception of an apron at the street as needed for snow removal, and that the limit of work, that the erosion control barrier shall serve as a limit of work and that no tree clearing will occur beyond the limit of work.
All right, I will entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions for 177 Middle Road with the special condition that was just cited by Mary.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call. All in favor. Mary,
Yes.
Woody,
yes.
Mick,
Aye.
Harry,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Thank you, Bill.
Right, thank you.
Okay, Mason, do you have, I know you have a sand symposium coming up this week.
Yes, that's on Thursday and Friday this week, so that should be actually I don't know if I moved it to the June 2nd folder, but I will. But the flyer for that is in the 519 folder for the regional sediment study that Salisbury, Newburyport, and Newbury are doing. So that's there if any of you guys would like to attend. I will likely be at the Thursday night session, which is for kind of catered towards the Salisbury folks. That one's going to be in Salisbury. And then we have a Friday morning one at PETA Hall. So if anyone's interested, or even if you can't make it and would like to provide any feedback, feel free to email or text me or anything like that.
So you're going to go to both meetings?
I don't think I'll be able to Friday. I think I'm out of town on Friday, but I'm going to
Okay.
try and get to the Thursday night one.
Okay.
And
Anything
besides
else?
that, just another brief reminder of the Larkin Dam removal ribbon cutting ceremony. That's going to be Thursday, June 11th at 10:30 a.m. And we'll all be meeting here at 12 Kent Way at the office. So looking forward to seeing
Yes.
any of the members who are able to make it.
Post that as a site meeting and then send out a meeting, the date to us, okay?
Yep, I can do that.
That way we won't have any issues with having, God forbid, we talked about how nice the dam removal looked, and that's considered deliberation.
Mason, it looks like that house on Middle Road that is under construction now.
Yep.
You-
Yeah, so they're outside of the window where I think we had required the monitoring. I think we did it from November to March or something like that. But James, the owner and the applicant, has been I get a couple calls from him during the week. Like he's very responsive and kind of
Oh,
keeping
good.
me updated on the process.
He looks good in there.
Yep, yeah, so they did the clearing probably about 3 weeks ago now. And just this past week, they laid down the first part of the road to get to their wetland crossing, where they then installed the 4-piece box culvert that they had. So I think they brought in a crane to lower that in. The plan is now that they have the gravel road to the culvert, I think they're going to try and lay out the rest of the road to get to the back of the site where they'll then start opening up.
Okay, last word. Mary, any final comments?
You've heard enough from me tonight.
No, thank God we're not paying her. I don't think we could afford the bill. Woody, any final comments?
Just, it's a ribbon cutting and cookout, that's all.
Oh, that's right.
oh,
Mason.
are you
put
cooking?
the-
No,
I
I
don't
thought
know.
we were going to
Mason's house.
If
Mason.
I'm cooking, you guys might be going hungry. Just a fair warning.
Frank,
That's all, Bob.
anything, Frank?
No, thank you, Bob.
Okay, Mick, how about yourself? Anything?
I am good. I'm good. Mason, just let me know when you're gonna go out to the golf course, and I'll be happy to join you.
Yeah, definitely.
This sounds like you guys are planning a 18-hole round here and not doing a site visit. Just saying, a
I
little
am not-
suspicious.
I am not your guy on a golf course. I own clubs for some reason, but I am much better with a hockey stick.
Harry, Eddie, any final thoughts?
No thoughts, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, David, how about yourself?
Nope, I've got nothing.
I have nothing. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Mary, Woody,
Aye,
Frank,
aye.
Mick,
Aye,
Harry,
aye, aye.
David,
Yep.
Yeah.
Bob Connors said yes. Hey, thank you, everyone.
Good
This
night.
was
Have a great night. Thanks all.
8:48, and we cleaned up a lot of continuances tonight, so
Yep.
Yeah.
thank you for your time and your patience.